Do you know the United States was built from 50 states, all once separate, now united under one flag, one currency, and one military? Unity is what allowed it to become the most powerful country. Now think about Africa, a continent with 54 countries, 1.54 billion people, and thousands of shared cultures, faiths, and languages, all divided by lines drawn in Berlin, Paris, and London. Lines that were never African to begin with. What happens if those lines are erased? What happens if Africa becomes one country? This is no longer just a Pan-African dream or a revolutionary chant. Now, African presidents from across the continent have taken the first real step toward making it happen. Something huge is unfolding behind closed doors, quietly, strategically, and faster than anyone expected. At a recent African Union leadership retreat, a confidential document titled the United Africa Transition Protocol was circulated. It wasn't just a symbolic statement. It was a real proposal for a united African government. So what's inside this document? Who's leading the charge? How does the rise of Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger's confederation fit into this story? And what happens next if Africa truly becomes one? In this video, let's break it down because this could change history forever. In the heart of Addis Ababa, behind the guarded doors of the African Union headquarters, a quiet storm began to brew. Delegates and heads of state had gathered for what was billed as a strategic leadership retreat. Yet what emerged from that room could change the destiny of an entire continent. A 68-page classified document titled the United Africa Transition Protocol was discreetly passed from hand to hand. It was not a think tank discussion paper, nor a political fantasy. It was a roadmap, and not just any roadmap. Within its pages were the foundations of a new Africa, a single continental parliament, a unified military command, a digital currency called Afric Coin, continent-wide dual citizenship under an African Union identity, and an unprecedented mandate, 2 term limits for every president, no exceptions. The most astonishing revelation wasn't the content, it was the consensus. Every African head of state, from the Atlantic coast to the Indian Ocean, agreed to the terms in principle. No veto power was exercised, no opt-out clauses were negotiated. For a continent often criticized for disunity, corruption, and tribal fragmentation, this was unthinkable. Yet it happened. And the silence surrounding the summit only made the impact louder when the news eventually leaked. This wasn't rhetoric. It wasn't a slogan. It was a signature, a serious beginning to a vision that many believed would never come. And as the ink dried on that secret proposal, a single truth became undeniable. Africa had just taken its most revolutionary political step since independence. But to understand why this shift toward unity is happening now, and not decades ago, one must look to the heart of the Sahel. Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, 3 nations historically marginalized and recently rocked by coups, did something unprecedented. In the face of violent threats, international isolation, and pressure from former colonial powers, they chose each other. They didn't beg for aid. They didn't apologize. Instead, they formed the Alliance of Sahel States, a confederation bound by mutual defense, shared resources, and a single objective: sovereignty. Critics dismissed the AES as symbolic. They said 3 landlocked coup-led nations couldn't lead a revolution. But the AES didn't just survive. It redefined what African cooperation could look like. By creating a joint army, expelling French forces, and pushing back against Western economic coercion, they proved that unity doesn't require perfection. It requires conviction. Their alliance gave birth to a powerful idea: that regional identity and independence weren't at odds with Pan-Africanism. They were the first step toward it. This defiance didn't go unnoticed. From Senegal to Sudan, political leaders and citizens alike watched as these 3 nations challenged global power structures and reclaimed their own narrative. And now, their example is spreading. In Lusaka, policymakers reference the AES when discussing regional defense. In Lagos, youth movements chant for African unity with renewed seriousness. In Nairobi and Niamey, there is talk of deepening ties, not just through trade, but through shared values. The AES didn't just form an alliance, they lit a fuse. And now the flame is climbing the walls of the African Union itself. Interestingly, this extraordinary move toward a single African government is not just a dream emerging out of nowhere. It is the product of decades of pressure building to a boiling point. Before we continue further, tell us, are you enjoying the video? If yes, please like and share the video and subscribe to our channel to watch more videos on Black Africa. Let's continue now. Across the continent, 5 major forces are cornering African leaders into finally addressing what Pan-Africanists have long warned. Without unity, Africa will remain controlled from the outside. The first of these forces is the continued military occupation of African soil by foreign powers. From sprawling U.S. drone bases in Djibouti to French military installations in Chad and rising Chinese security partnerships in the East, Africa has become a playground for global armies. These foreign powers don't simply defend African countries. In reality, they never came to defend. Instead, they came to influence policy, extract resources, and enforce their strategic interests. African nations are slowly realizing that as long as they remain divided, their militaries will remain weak, scattered, and vulnerable. Therefore, a unified command, a continental defense body, is no longer idealistic. It is a matter of sovereignty. The second pressure point is what many are now calling digital colonialism. In an age where data is power, Africa's most precious digital assets are hosted, stored, and controlled by foreign companies. From WhatsApp to Facebook, from cloud servers to mobile money platforms, most of Africa's technological infrastructure is owned and governed outside the continent. This creates an invisible but powerful form of control, where African citizens' behavior, politics, and even banking are manipulated through digital platforms they don't own. In this context, the push for a unified African digital identity, including a central digital currency like Africoin, has become essential, not just for economic independence, but for digital survival. Next is the youth explosion. Africa has the youngest population on Earth, with 70% under the age of 30. But this demographic gift has become a ticking time bomb. National economies cannot provide enough jobs. Talent is being wasted or lost to migration. Young people feel trapped by visa restrictions, border controls, and outdated nationalistic bureaucracy. They see each other as brothers and sisters across the continent, but are treated like foreigners when crossing into neighboring African states. The call for free movement, shared opportunity, and unified identity is loudest from this generation. They don't just want independence from colonialism. They want independence from old African structures that no longer serve them. Then there's the global chaos, climate change, rising inflation, water scarcity, conflict, and the fallout of global pandemics. No single African country, no matter how rich in resources or stable in government, can withstand these pressures alone. When drought hits one region, food prices spike across the continent. When one country collapses politically, refugees flood its neighbors. A fragmented Africa is unprepared. Only through continental cooperation, through shared policies, shared emergency responses, and shared infrastructure, can Africa survive the storms that are already here and those that are coming. Lastly, the African diaspora, spread from London to Atlanta, from Paris to Sao Paulo, is putting moral and political pressure on their home governments to step up. For decades, these communities have sent remittances, defended Africa in foreign media, and kept cultural pride alive. Now they are demanding more than slogans. They want action. They want to invest, to move freely, to return if they choose. They are tired of seeing Africa beg for aid while its richest children are told to stay away. This pressure from outside is beginning to match the pressure from within. So, what does all this lead to? What would a united African government actually look like? The United Africa Transition Protocol, or UATP, offers more than a dream. It provides a practical timeline. From 2025 to 2028, the focus will be on legal alignment. During this period, every participating country will begin revising its constitution to align with shared African values like human rights, democratic transitions, and critically, presidential term limits. This will also be the testing ground for AfricCoin, the proposed digital African currency, which will first roll out in East African markets to evaluate its strength, stability, and adoption rates. Between 2029 and 2032, the structure of the new Africa will begin to take shape. A united African parliament will be formed, with each nation sending 10 representatives. This legislative body won't erase national parliaments, but will provide a unified continental voice on major matters such as trade, security, migration, and development. Alongside it, the African Defense Command will be launched, which will be a singular military coordination body comprising top commanders from across Africa. This doesn't mean one massive African army, but it does mean coordinated strategy, resource sharing, and mutual protection against external threats. Then comes the most ambitious phase, the citizenship and governance period from 2033 to 2036. Every African citizen will receive an African Union citizenship in addition to their national one. This dual citizenship will allow them to live, work, study, and invest across borders freely, just like citizens of the European Union. A continent-wide electoral council will also be formed to oversee AU-level elections and ensure fair governance practices. Crucially, this model doesn't aim to erase cultural or national identities. The idea is not to dissolve Nigeria, Ghana, or Kenya, but to replace artificial colonial borders with cooperative federal ones. The end goal is a continent that speaks with one voice globally, defends itself as one body, and gives its citizens one powerful identity that is no longer seen as third world. This plan, if it continues, would make Africa the world's largest federation by land and second largest by population. It would unlock untapped trade, unleash scientific collaboration, stop wars before they start, and return dignity to the African identity. Whether it succeeds depends not just on presidents and parliaments, but on whether Africans everywhere decide that this dream is worth fighting for. And if this becomes real, Africa will no longer be 55 fragmented states. It will be one unstoppable force. What do you think? Should Africa turn into a single country with one government? Do you feel African presidents will manifest Gaddafi's dream and create the most powerful country in the world? In the comment section below, share your thoughts on whether countries like the United States or entities like the EU ever think of exploiting a united Africa. Do you want to watch more videos like this one? If yes, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon next to it. We bring videos on Black Africa, its history, rich arts and culture, and things the world should know about. Thanks for watching, and until the next video, stay tuned.